Hi everyone, my name is Naomi Sotera and I'm the author of the book Forgiveness and Healing. I know the subject of forgiveness is something that we have heard in many different places. This can be good church, it's spoken about a lot in our communities, sometimes kumabasa as well. It's not something which is new, but there is something that we've heard about this particular subject. However, because of that, sometimes there are many myths and misconceptions around the subject of forgiveness and healing. And they end up trapping us in a way. They form what are called strongholds. Because the things that we've heard, sometimes they end up becoming like, that's the truth around the subject. Walk with me as I demystify some of those things that we speak about around the subject, such that we walk together on the path of healing and wholeness. The first thing I want to talk about is time heals all wounds. I think statement ichakainzwa tese kuti chingozvisiya zvichapera nekufamba kwenguva. But is that actually true? I have met people who maybe something has happened, very vana vadiki, they could have been 10. And you're talking to someone who is 40 years, but the way they narrate what happened in that particular instance when they were young, you can actually see and recognize that you're still talking to that 10-year-old person in that particular area of their lives. So long you do not process pain, it doesn't actually go away. It stays there and it stays in that particular place. So this is actually a myth. Time does not heal wounds. One needs to be able to process the pain and come to a place of healing. The other myth that we have heard is that kana wanyatsomuregerera munhu haufungi nezvazvo. Is that true? Is that actually true, guys? I want to give you an analogy. On your hand. Waenda ku hospital, the wound has been cleaned, the wound has been treated. But you'd find that pachasara is scar, and the scar is a reminder of what happened on that particular hand. Depending on the severity of the pain, and because we are all different people, sometimes one doesn't forget. But what changes is the intensity of the emotions. Zvaunonzwa mauri paunofunga nenyaya iyoyo ndo zvinokwanisa kuchinja. Pekutanga unogona kunzwa kuremerwa kana kunzwa musodzi chibuda. But as you keep on processing the pain, you find that pamwe wakwanisa kugara pasi uchitaura nemunhu usingachemi or uchitaura nezvenyaya yacho. It's a journey. It's not an event yekuti you can just arrive. So kuti kana waregerera munhu hauchafunga nezvazvo, aiwa hachisi chokwadi for everyone. The other one, some talk about karma. Some would say, because you've hurt or offended me, chakaipa chinomuwana munhu iyeye nekuti andikanganisira. It's actually true, guys. You know, the reason why I'm bringing these things is that we demystify these misconceptions that we hold around this subject of forgiveness. God is a just, He's a loving Father. He hurts when you hurt. The word of God says, God makes the rain fall on both the righteous and the unrighteous. You know, that shows the love that God has for everyone. So sometimes, you know, yes, one suffers consequences if they move out of the covering of God. Maybe the hurt that they caused you was a sin, for example. One certainly does encounter consequences as a result of that. But sometimes it's not so visible to the human eye. Sometimes it's not as visible, but always know that God is a just, He's a right, and He's a loving Father. And He hurts when you hurt, and He will stand up for you, sometimes in ways that you do not know or you do not see. Therefore, walking the path of forgiveness is also choosing to trust God, to say, Lord, I'm handing over this issue to you on my behalf for you to deal with it. Because some of the things, they are not so visible to our eye, but God is a just Father who works on your behalf. Some of the myths that we've heard, kuratidza kuti ndaregerera munhu ndofanira kuyanana ndofanira kutaura nemunhu sezvandaita kumashure zvakaitika zvisati zvavapo. That differs for many people, and I'm going to just touch on that a little bit. So initially when you're in pain, warwadziwa nezvaitika, give yourself time, give yourself room for you to be able to process your pain. And sometimes that can mean you're away from the person as you process yourself. That is very much okay. But now when you see this person is also maybe continuously doing something that hurts or that affects you, I encourage you to put what are called boundaries in place. A boundary can be something as simple as, aiwa apa ndisikukwanisa kuuya nguva dzamataura. A boundary can be no. A boundary can be, ndokwanisa kuzozviita nenguva yakati here. A boundary can be, aiwa musapinde mubedroom mangu ndikuuya ikoko kwamuri. So depending on the issue, depending on the relationship that you have with the person, I encourage you to put boundaries in place. They help safeguard our relationships together, and they give you a voice in relationships as well. Where abuse is concerned, a boundary can be a complete removal, just complete kuti pane munhu yanchataura naye. That is very acceptable because you are protecting yourself. But for the other issues, everyday issues that we encounter in our relationships, it's always encouraged that you can take a step back where you're processing the pain, put boundaries in place. When you see they are not working, review those boundaries. And afterwards, reconciliation is always advisable. Because many times, we also hate other people without realizing it. Tikati nekuti andikanganisira nchataura naye. We end up coming to a place of isolation where we do not have anyone around us, because at some point, someone has something against us. We have something against the next person. And as I said earlier on, we thrive in relationships. That's the backbone of our communities, where we come together, we thrive in relationships. We need to be able to process the pain, we process the hurt, we put boundaries in place, and where we can, we come to a place of reconciliation. And as we reconcile together, sometimes how the relationships was before may actually be different. Now the relationship is now following maybe the boundaries that you have put in place. In light of Zvaitika, what does it teach you? It's now shaping and guiding how you relate to the person. So it doesn't necessarily mean that to show that I have forgiven you, the relationship may be the same as it was before. No, the relationship may take a new direction based also on what happened before, but it's all still coming from a place of love.